Bakers, welcome to the kitchen. Today I'm going to show you how to make a quick, easy, and inexpensive blueberry muffin. We have pretty commonplace ingredients: milk, eggs, sugar, butter, and as I go through the recipe I can tell you what you can sub out so you can customize and make these muffins your own. Now as far as food cost goes, the whole batch of muffins costs us $4.81 to prepare. I costed that out using regular supermarket prices, and if we break it down, for a regular small muffin, that would be 40 cents our cost, and for something like a jumbo size muffin, 80 cents our cost. Enough talk, let's get going. So the first thing you're going to do is you're going to sift the dry ingredients, and I've already done that to save time, and that would be flour, baking powder, and salt. Next, we're going to crack some eggs into our bowl here. And we're going to go ahead and we're going to add the sugar, and we're going to add the vanilla. Oops, I didn't get all the sugar. Make sure when you get all your ingredients. And then we're going to add the milk, and we're going to start whisking right away because we want to make sure that the eggs don't start to dry out. Well, no, let me say this properly. The sugar will start to dry out the eggs if the eggs and sugar sit too long right on top of each other. So we're going to whisk that together. Now this is optional, but you could add a little lemon zest because blueberries and lemon are natural. It's a good marriage. They're natural partners. I'm going to zest half the lemon into this egg, sugar, and milk mixture, and the other half I'm going to add to a little sugar I have off to the side that I'm going to use as a topping for these muffins, and more about that later. I could talk a long time about toppings and garnishes. So we're just setting that up, just making sure I have everything, and I do. All right. And then I'm going to add the butter a little bit at a time. And this is melted and cooled butter. If you didn't want to use butter, you could use vegetable oil. And also you could use any plant-based milk in place of the regular milk, if you wanted. So these are totally customizable. And they don't have to be blueberry. They can be raspberry, like my apron. I'm sorry, I didn't have a blueberry apron, so I had to grab the raspberry one. I want to make sure the fat kind of emulsifies into this mixture a little bit. It'll just be better overall for the batter, the final blueberry muffin batter. All right, so that's in, looks good. Remember, whenever you're adding melted butter to a batter, like the muffins or pancakes or waffles, make sure it's melted and cooled. If it's too hot when it hits the rest of the ingredients, it could seize up and kind of chip, and that can affect the final crumb structure of your product. All right, the next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to grab a large bowl, and we're going to get the dry ingredients and wet ingredients combined. Before I continue with the mixing, I want to just be clear about something. This is a regular size muffin pan. It has 12 cavities. The jumbo, or large size, has 6. So however you like your muffins, you like the smaller, more petite ones, or if you like large ones, I'm more of a large muffin person myself, you can use either pan. This can even be baked in a cake pan as more of a coffee cake if that works for you. All right, what we're going to do is we're going to go ahead and we're going to dump our sifted ingredients into the bowl, and then we're going to grab a spatula, and I'm going to add the wet ingredients. Okay, and make sure you get all of them. And I'm going to mix with the spatula. I'm going to start from the center, and I'm going to just kind of go toward the outside just to kind of get things started. Now this is a quick bread. Ooh, the oven is preheated. That's a good thing. Make sure you do that first. Though this batter without the blueberries will hold in the refrigerator for up to 3 days. And the reason is it is leavened, or the chemical leavener that makes it rise is baking powder, and that baking powder is more tolerant of hanging out in the refrigerator for a while than baking soda. Recipes with baking soda have to get in the oven right away. All right, now I'm not looking for cake mix smooth, and as a matter of fact, we don't really want to mix more than 20. We don't want to fold or mix more than 20. I don't know what else to say, but like revolutions with the spatula. We want to keep the mix light. And we still have to get our blueberries in here. Now, it's July when I'm filming this, and blueberries are everywhere, and they're dirt cheap. I just want to show you what the batter looks like. Now, we do have, it's like I said, it's not cake mix smooth, but that's okay, because as I collect the berries, the flour particles are going to continue to hydrate. So it's going to be all right. Just make sure the wet ingredients and dry ingredients are combined and it's relatively smooth. All right, so I want to show you when we use fresh blueberries, all we need to do is stem them and wash them and dump them in. But what about those months that aren't July and blueberries aren't everywhere? Well, we're going to use frozen berries. So for the fresh blueberries, we just fold them in. They go in so easily. But when we freeze berries, there's a lot of ice crystals that form because they have a natural high water content. So what we want to do is just take a little bit of flour and toss them in the flour. It doesn't need to be very much, and this will help hold that liquid in as they're baking, so they won't, and as we're mixing, so they won't bleed out. So we're going to dump those in, and it's just a little bit of flour. Now, some recipes will tell you, oh, use a little bit of flour from your mix. You can do that if you don't want to add more flour, but you can see it's a very light amount. Here, let me go closer to camera, and it's not going to make a difference in the batter. When we mix in the berries, we're going to keep it nice and light. So just take a breath. Always remember to breathe, period, but definitely when you're baking. Ooh, that looks great. Now the frozen ones do begin to bleed just a little bit. That's what they do, but this isn't too bad, and we're ready to start scooping. So I have my pan all set right here, lined with paper muffin liners, which just may clean up a breeze. But if you don't have these, you can grease and flour the cavities, and that will work as well. I usually will grease the tops, just a little bit of the pan, because if the muffin kind of comes over, we don't want it to get stuck. All right, so now what we're going to do is we're going to fill the cavities 2/3 full. Now right now, I apologize, I don't have an overhead camera, so I'm just going to take my largest ice cream scoop, and I'm going to scoop all pretty much level, and then we'll make some adjustments. But this recipe, which I adapted from a classic culinary school recipe, I have thousands of classic culinary school recipes to share with you and adapt. They're all adapted, so they're not original, so nobody will get upset. Okay, and then the batter that's left over, I'm going to just kind of evenly distribute between the 6 muffins in the pan. All right, the muffins are scooped. There was a little bit of back and forth to make sure they're even. We're going for the cavity to be about 2/3 of the way full, and I like to garnish my muffins. If you've got some crumb topping hanging out in the fridge or freezer, you can use that. But just to kind of piggyback onto that lemon flavor, I'm going to take the lemon zest from the other half of lemon, and I'm going to toss it with a little bit of granulated sugar. Now, if you had coarse sugar, which is also called sanding sugar, you could use that too. But what I like about this is it makes a pretty crystal top, which just kind of makes them just that a little bit more special. I love garnishing. Years ago, I worked for a luxury hotel in Boston, and the chef was wonderful, but he was super austere, and there were no garnishes on the breakfast pastries, especially the muffins. And it made me nuts. So when I got out of that job, I just really thought, never again. From here to the end, I'm gonna garnish, I'm gonna gild the lily. Doesn't that look great? So last thing before they go in the oven, typically the muffin pans that we buy are not terribly thick-walled. So it's a really good idea to, when you're making muffins or cupcakes, to support the pan on another baking tray. And what does this do? I know you always want to know why. Why, Chef Colette? Why? Well, this way, the bottom and sides of the muffins, they are a little bit protected from direct heat. We wouldn't want them super protected, just a little bit, so there'll be less of a tendency for them to over brown on the bottom and the sides. So that's it. Now typically, in this size pan, in my oven, just kind of a normal, regular oven, nothing fancy, you can see it behind me, 350 takes about 28 minutes. I'll check them in 22 just to be sure. We want them a light golden brown, and we want them to test clean in the center. So we'll take a look when they come out. The muffins are out of the oven, and they're a beautiful pale golden brown. Now I achieved this pretty crust color by actually moving them up to a higher rack in the last few minutes of baking, so that the heat, which rises up the walls of the oven to the roof, could drop down on the muffins and give them this beautiful sun-kissed golden brown. Now, right now, they're a little too warm to remove from the pan. I like to wait about 10 minutes, let them sort of solidify and be a little less fragile before removing them. But it's important not to let them sit in the pan, because if they sit in the warm pan too long, they'll sweat. They'll get soggy bottoms. Never a good thing. So about 10 minutes, and then remove from the pan to a wire rack. All right. I don't want to keep you too much longer, because I want you to get into the kitchen and bake. But just take a look at the inside of the muffins. Look at that beautiful crumb structure. The blueberries are nicely dispersed. Now they're steaming hot. It's not really a great idea to cut open, hot muffins. But again, I didn't want to keep you. But look at them, perfect. So really quick, fully baked, well wrapped. They'll keep in your freezer for 2 weeks. And as I said earlier, you can make the batter and it will stay in the refrigerator for 2 to 3 days, so you can scoop and bake muffins whenever you want. I hope you enjoyed this tutorial and learning about how to make a batch of muffins quite inexpensively and still, get your bake on, because it's our favorite hobby, right? Baking makes life sweet. Thank you for joining me in the kitchen. Any questions, let me know. Happy baking.